Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Yesshift Stevens Vinyl Adventures episode. Of course, am Steven Schinder, one of the co-hosts of Yesshift, and today the main topic is Levin Torn White, their self-titled album from that trio that came out in 2011, which I recently acquired. But of course, today, November 12th, is also the anniversary of when the Fragile album was released by Yes in the UK back in 1971. Hence the fragile artwork background behind me if you're watching the video. So, yeah, even though Alan White of Levin Torn White was not on the Fragile album, he played much of the material a lot over the years, over the decades that he was in Yes. So, very excited to see how the current Yes lineup performs the Fragile album. I'm seeing them tomorrow night in the YouTube Theater in Inglewood. So I will have my review of that going live on Friday the 14th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. So that would be 6 p.m. UK time. And as for the Steve Hackett concert that I'm seeing on the night of the 14th, Dad and I have picked out when to talk about it. He saw it in Phoenix last night. I'm seeing it in Los Angeles on Friday. So we're going to go live to sort of talk about our individual experiences and compare notes and whatnot live on here Monday, November 17th at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. And I guess I'll be super late for UK time, but it'll still be archived. You'll be able to watch after the broadcast. So, yeah, very exciting stuff there. So, let's get into it. So, Levin Torn White. I have the Yescography page pulled up. This is hosted over on the Bondigazoo site these days. There's are some interesting tidbits here. So, of course, the band members here are Tony Levin, David Torn, and Alan White. From what I understand, David and Tony had worked together before. One of the things was in Bruford Levin Upper Extremities. I believe he was part of that project. But let's look at these interview quote extracts here on the Yescography page. And let me know if I sound okay on here. Just want to make sure that everyone can hear me. But okay, yeah, it seems like I sound fine. So this quote is from the producer. So Mr. Shore says, "It all started when I produced Tony Levin's solo CD Stickman. Tony and I hit it off so well that we were looking for something else to work on. Alan has always been one of my favorite drummers, and yes, my all-time favorite band. I mentioned it to Tony, and he dug Alan, so he was way into it. Tony then recommended David Torn. What a crazy trio that would make. So that's the story. It was really cool to watch how these three powerhouses came together and really gelled. I can tell you that each guy pushed themselves to the limit. I was hoping for a hardcore sound with melody as well. I think they pulled it off." And this is me, Steven, speaking here. I do think they pulled off that vibe of an album that sounds, hardcore yet melodic. It feels some of it feels very King Crimson, which makes sense to me. Kind of interesting that we associate King Crimson's, that type of sound more with Bill Bruford, because of course he has been a member on multiple albums and tours with the band, but here you have Alan White instead, and it really is that improvisational feel that I think makes it feel King Crimson-esque, improvisational and industrial type of sound. I think those are what make it sound more like King Crimson as opposed to Yes. I couldn't really think of any facets of Yes that this really reminded me of, except maybe bits of Relayer, but those bits of Relayer kind of remind me of King Crimson as well. So there you go. This other quote that I see here, let's see. Tony Levin said, I've known Alan and admired him for some time, but never got to do a project with him. Not counting the Yes album where we both played with different incarnations of the group, but not together. Yeah, of course, referring to the Union album there. And he said, David is an old friend and co conspirator. When I realized from Alan's ideas and my reactions how radical the direction was for the music, David seemed not only the best choice, but pretty much the only choice for guitar. It's a category, and he's talking about the sound here. It's a category I don't know quite how to describe. Improvisational, to be sure, but with each player improvising separately to what the others had done, and then reassembling and then re-improvising. So that's a real great method there. Apparently, they were trying to put a tour together around the time this was coming out, but Alan has commitments with Yes, and Tony had his commitments with Stickmen, which at the time was sharing a bill with Adrian Belew. That must have been amazing. And yeah, so I guess we just have this album, but slight detour. Speaking of Stickmen, I saw that there's another Stickmen concert going on near me in Los Angeles about a month from now. So I'm kind of considering, like, maybe it'll depend on my schedule, but perhaps I might try to go and see that concert. When I saw them at the Baked Potato, Tony wasn't there because he was ill, but it was still a great show. But now I kind of want to see them again with Tony back, now that he's able to do that. From what I understand, their opening act is We Are Ants to Them, which I'm not really familiar with. So I'm kind of curious about that as well. So we'll see if I'm able to go and see them. But yeah, and I feel like this is a really great time for me to get into this Levin Torn White album, having recently listened to some stuff that's kind of in the vein of that sound. And of course, had talked about Beat Live. I got the Beat Live art book the other day, as I mentioned on the news desk the other day. I don't remember if I showed this thing that sort of came with the like wrapped around the art book. It shows a track list, and yeah, it's got those. It's got like the number 12 at the bottom. I guess that's the rating or something for the Blu-ray. I don't know. And yeah, so it's really cool the way all these things sort of converge. It was about this week last year that I saw Beat, and now this week I'm seeing Yes and Steve Hackett. So it's a really fun time. But this Levin Torn White album got its, it had its own little resurgence recently. You can go purchase it over on Bandcamp. The link is in the description of this. Let me make sure I have the let's see, Levin Torn White. Okay, yeah, if you go to levintornwhite.bandcamp.com/album/Levin-torn-white, then you'll get to it. The CD is sold out, but it looks like they have blue vinyls available, $30, and Lazy Bone Recordings t-shirts. So that's really cool. I don't recall if I saw the blue vinyl listed when I ordered this. When I saw the post on the Alan White Facebook page that this vinyl was available, mine is black. The vinyl that I got is black rather than blue. But when I saw the listing, it was an instant buy for me, because I'm like, oh, I feel it's been I keep hearing that it's been forever since this has been available on physical. So I guess the CD is not available, but you can buy it digitally. You can buy the blue vinyl from the looks of it. What's interesting that I realized as I was going through this album is that, of course, due to the vinyl length, there are a few tracks on the CD and digital album that are not on the vinyl. So I'll go ahead and read off the full track list real quick. It's 14 tracks. You've got No Warning Lights, Ultra Mullet, White Noise, The Hood Fell, Monkey Mind, Cheese It, The Corpse, Convergence, Pillowful of Dark, The Eggman Cometh, Sleeping Horse, Prom Night of the Centipedes, Crunch Time, Brain Tattoo, and Lights Out. Now, out of those tracks, the ones that are not on the vinyl include Convergence, The Eggman Cometh, and Sleeping Horse. Now, Convergence has a very spacey type of sound, and this album is a reminder that, you know, these are all instrumentals, so it's especially true here that the title of something really informs how you might imagine the setting of the music or what it's about. So with Convergence, I really did think of, you know, outer space. You know, I suppose the word might also make people think of things colliding, but the soundscape feels more like just outer space rather than things crashing together. It doesn't feel as industrial as other parts of the album. The Eggman Cometh is kind of bouncy. It's a shorter one, about a minute and a half. And Sleeping Horse feels very enigmatic. I could imagine this accompanying a David Lynch picture, you know, a film or a series of his. It's got that type of vibe to it. So I'll go ahead and show the album, the vinyl that I have. So maybe I have to take off the background so it doesn't suddenly disappear. So I'll go ahead and do that for a bit. All right, so this is the front of it. It's basically just the names Levin, Torn, White, in huge letters, and on the side you see their first names, which are sideways to the left of the surnames. And then on the back you have the track list and the credits. There's not really an essay accompanying this. You know how much I love essays and lyric sheets and these things. Of course, this one does not need a lyric sheet because they're all instrumentals. But yeah, it says produced by Scott Shore and Tony Levin, and you got Tony on bass and Chapman Stick, David on guitars and textural events. That's a neat name for those moments. Alan White, of course, on drums and percussion, and all songs written by Levin, Torn, and White except Sleeping Horse, which is just by Levin and Torn. All songs arranged by Shore except Brain Tattoo, arranged by Levin and Shore, and Sleeping Horse arranged by Levin and Torn. And it says this record was made at Cell Labs, East Bearsville, New York, London Bridge Studios, Seattle, Washington, Studio 41, Kingston, New York, Grandma's Itchy Place, New Plymouth, New Zealand. Engineered by Dave Carnahan, Robert Fratza, Tony Levin, Jonathan Plum, Scott Shore, and David Torn. And of course, there are some piano sounds here and there, which are cool. So it's piano and keyboards by Scott Shore. So it's cool that he was able to contribute that. And mixed by Tony Lash at Mandible, Portland, Oregon. Mastered by Larry DeVivo at Silvertone Mastering, Saratoga Springs, New York. Graphic design by Ben Brown at Olivator Design. And you got the special thanks here, which is really great. You know, always great to include the special thanks. You get them from each of the band members here. And I'll go ahead and show you the record and then share what I thought about the rest of these tracks after that. So it comes in this white dust jacket or whatever you call it. And you got this black vinyl record. It's very shiny, very new. You can see the reflection as I hold it up to the webcam. And in the center, you have the band name, of course, the trio name, and the side one or side two, as well as the track list. And I appreciate that they include the run times for each of these tracks. Some albums just don't do that for some reason. So side one, I'll go ahead and put this back and pull up my notes again. Alrighty, so side one, we begin with No Warning Light, which there's actually a video of this on the Bandcamp page. You see the band members performing, and the song accompanies the footage. There's footage of random things like ants and random people here and there, but they're not as intrusive as perhaps the weirdness of The Owner of the Lonely Heart music video. But yeah, No Warning Lights feels freaky and sinister, very King Crimson-esque. Ultra Mullet is a bit different. It makes you think of a robot. It's really cool. White Noise, of course, has more emphasis on Alan, so his drumming is a bit more center stage. Not to say that it doesn't stand out on the rest of the album, but it's definitely him being showcased here along with this other stuff. The Hood Fell, a very industrial feel. Brain Tattoo reminds me of the cadence of an ambulance sound, but then it switches to something more conventional. So thinking of the title, I kind of wondered if maybe it's trying to convey, or maybe they recorded it and then after the fact one couldn't think of this, because some of this is improvisational, so you never know. But it made me think of how perhaps when someone gets a tattoo, it might sting a little. Maybe there's a bit of chaos to it, but then once you have it, it feels more normal and easygoing type of thing. So that's just what came to mind, I guess. And Cheese It the Corpse, a really fun title, I guess. Reminds me of the jaggedness of Relayer. I've mentioned before, Relayer does kind of have a little bit of an improvisational feel to it, so there's that. And then side two, we get Pillowful of Dark, which ends on a very mysterious note. There's kind of a theme here with like light and dark and night and all of that stuff. The next one is Prom Night of the Centipedes, which has voices at the end, which I couldn't really make out what they were saying. So feel free to comment if you know. Maybe I just need to like keep on listening to that bit over and over in order to decipher it. Then we get Crunch Time, which feels very bouncy and quirky. And Monkey Mind is very shredding. And then Lights Out has more quirkiness. Very solid tracks all around. At most, the longest ones are generally less than 5 minutes. So we have one that's maybe a little more than 5. And in general, the shortest ones are maybe 2 minutes, apart from that 1.5 minute track. But yeah, I really enjoyed this listen. I couldn't remember if I'd listened to the entire album before a while back, during the time of the podcast, but I've at least listened to bits of it. But now I've listened to the whole thing, and I'm really glad to have this album in my possession. It's kind of an obscure, little-known gem as far as Yes spin-off projects are concerned, or Yes member type projects. So yeah, I'm glad that it is seeing the light of day again and that people can get it again now. And very great to be able to add more variety to my music palette, because I really enjoy being able to switch to different things, which I'm sure that my younger self from like 20 or 25 years ago would not be able to fathom, because I was like only about Yes back then. It's a funny thing to think about in hindsight. But yeah, definitely give this album a listen. It might be for you. It's really great stuff. It's different from Yes. It has, like I said, more improvisational, industrial, harder, I guess, somewhat hardcore yet melodic feel. It kind of allowed them to get into the nitty gritty, whereas with yes, you have to abide by with the S, it feels like they have to refine it into a certain way that fits the mold of the band. Whereas this Levin Torn White record felt like it could just go anywhere. And, it kind of has that feel of like, okay, let's get in and see what we can do. So a very great snapshot of music history. All right, so that'll be it for now. Like I said, I got the Yes concert review coming on Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific. And then Dad and I will talk about Steve Hackett concerts Monday, 3 p.m. Pacific. And we got other stuff planned as well. And over on Drum Talk TV, brilliance.com, check out our upcoming fan Q&As where you can ask questions. Nico McBrain of Iron Maiden is this Saturday, November 15th, noon Pacific. So if you want to ask him a question online face-to-face, go ahead and check out the details over at that site of how you can do that. And we got other stuff coming up over there. There's a whole calendar of what's coming up, an events page. So check all that out. All right, folks. So glad to be able to talk about all of this and, also give Fragile another listen as well for its anniversary. I did see the Gottlieb brothers made a nice post about it, and also Forgotten Yesterdays made a post saying, oh, it's such an obscure album, not as well known as Tornado or something like that. So pretty funny. But yeah, great stuff. Very excited about music stuff going on and stuff to talk about. So thanks for tuning in. You can follow us at Yesshift on Facebook and YouTube. Write to us at yesshiftpodcast@gmail.com and search Yesshift on podcast app. You'll probably find us if you want to listen. Thanks again and see you all soon. Bye.